I said, give me the fucking bourbon. That's just one memorable line from this movie. So today we are going to be talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors from 1987. And this one
Dream Warriors.
Yeah, we'll have to sing it because it would be copyright if I played the actual song. Amazing song, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So and the same band, I think they're a German band, do two kind of memorable songs on the soundtrack. So you can't really ask.
I think they're called or something, or
That's
Dustin
right.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're German. It does feel like more of a direct sequel to the original, and then part 2, which we reviewed recently. So Dream Warriors from 87, as I said, this one is really full of talent because, well, it's directed by Chuck Russell, who also did the Blob remake, which I've not seen, but I know that's a little bit of a favorite, a little bit of a cult favorite. He's done one or two other things. Also, when you look at the writers, apart from Wes Craven as a co-writer, you've also got Frank Darabont, before anyone knew who he was. He's one of the writers on this movie. You've also got Angelo Badalamenti, the regular David Lynch composer. He does the music for this movie. And you've got a bunch of faces on the cast, including a very young Patricia Arquette, pre-Fane, a younger Lawrence Fishburne, Larry, as he's credited in the movie. And yeah, you've got a bunch of faces in this one, so it's a pretty stacked crew overall. And this is the one where they, of course, bring Heather Lagerkamp back, and she returns as Nancy. And the twist on this one is that she is now a trained dream therapist. And you've got a group of kids in this like mental institution who's being haunted by Freddy, and she helps them out. And this is almost a twist on the first one where they are actively coming after Freddy, so they have to gang together to try and take him down. You also have a cameo appearance by John Saxton, who returns as a father. He plays a crucial part in the back half of the movie. Kids, because they all kind of have their own individual like abilities as well. So it does go into some different areas than the original movies. So Rachel, what do you think of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3?
I love Dream Warriors. I mean, I'm with everyone. This is one of the best, if not the best, Nightmare sequel. So much fun.
Yeah.
Such a fun premise. I absolutely love that Nancy specifically says that these are the last of the Elm Street kids. So these are the last of the kids whose parents went after Freddy, and that's why he's coming after them. So I really like that little bit of like continuity and lore. Obviously, bringing Nancy back is fantastic. Heather Langenkamp is so good. This is a really small piece of continuity, but I really love that Nancy still has the white streak in her hair that she got from the first movie. It's a great bit of continuity showing the trauma that she kind of carries with her from Freddy. And I think that's really great. And she's a really strong character. I really love the teens in this movie. They're all really proactive, you know. I mean, they're all suffering a lot, you know. They're all suffering from nightmares, and their parents all think they're suicidal, and, you know, they all have their own unique issues. But I just love the way that they're willing to band together and to take down Freddy. And I think it's really smart how you see they've worked out systems together where one of them will stay up while the other one sleeps. You know, if they have roommates, like they're really smart. They're really on the ball. I particularly love Kincaid. Kincaid is freaking awesome. He's good, so great. He's like one of my favorites. And I love when they go into the dreams and they have their own powers and seeing them. Like obviously Kirsten, whatever her name is, her dream is that she can bring people into her dream. So she's the one that's physically bringing them into the dreams. But then of course you've got the disabled guy who can walk in his dreams. You've got the selective mute guy who screams in his dreams. You know, just all of that is just so cool. The score is so good. And I talked about this when we did our Freddy 2 review, where there wasn't enough fun in that one. The fun is back in this one. Like some of the stuff that Freddy does to these kids, some of these sequences, the marionette sequence. Oh, that is one of my favorite, but also least favorite sequences because it's so well done and so gross, but like so horrifying. And yeah, no, I had so much fun watching this movie. I do have just a couple of little nitpicks that are just to do with the climax. They're not huge things. They're just little things that, for me, I think the movie may have been a little bit better without them. But other than that, yeah. No, oh, and I also really liked the other counselor guy, the guy that Nancy has a little bit of a romance with, because he seemed to genuinely care about the kids. I really liked that his motivation was to genuinely help the kids, not just repress them and stuff them back into their cells and just, drug them up. He actually wanted to help, which I think is what made him so open to Nancy telling him about Freddy and about the dreams and all of that. But no, I had so much fun. I've seen this one before. This is a sequel I have watched a few times before, and it's always so much fun to watch it. And yeah, it really brings back the feel from the first movie, and I think that this is a really worthy sequel. So yeah, I had so much fun watching it. What about you?
Yeah, it's great. I've seen this a few times, and this is how you do a sequel, especially in this franchise. And it does a great job of expanding on the lore and the universe. And Freddy, once again, is sort of back to his best, and bringing Nancy back and the twist on her character now, that's a bit of a master stroke. I think John Saxton has a nice cameo. I do actually like, I know it's in the back half of the movie, but I do like him and the therapist teaming up in those scenes. That's really satisfying because, the father has a little bit of an arc because him and Nancy haven't seen each other in years, and he's fallen on hard times, a bit of a drunk, and he takes a bit of talking into like helping out and coming back to try and defeat Freddy. So like, and a little bit convincing that this stuff is real, but like, so I do like his end as well, like the stuff in like the scrapyard and stuff. And it's a bit of a subversion, isn't it, with that therapist, because I think they set you up to maybe think he's going to be a little bit sleazy, or then
absolutely,
yeah, maybe he's not going to have the best interests of the kids at heart. But I agree with you as well. I think the kids are mostly like good, and they all have their own distinct sort of feel. Kilcade is a standout, and I think he really grows as a character and has some badass lines. I actually really like Tara. I think she's one of my favorites. She might be my favorite, actually. I've got to dig her sort of punk rock type look, but I think
look is awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. And that's the stuff which they do get away with, which maybe in another movie in different hands they wouldn't, like, because it definitely goes places, this movie, but I think the places it go makes a lot of sense, and I think they just tweak it a little bit so it maybe feels a little bit more like a dark sort of fairy tale, this one, a little bit, than the original movie. And like you said, them having all these powers and them being so proactive, that works really well. So yeah, like you, I think there's probably one or two nitpicks, and I do go back and forth whether I like this one or the original one like the most, but maybe one or two nitpicks is why I might prefer the original one a little bit. But I think when it comes to sequels, it doesn't get much better than this, and just the fact that people do talk about it in the same breath, and that like sometimes you do go back and forth. Sometimes you do think, well, is this as good as the sequel, as the first film? But it's, as I said, it's just a great example of how you do a sequel where it feels like it's part of the same franchise. It feels like it complements the original movie, but it also does its own thing. It's not just a carbon copy. It sort of builds on.
And I really like that about this one, that it is that difference of like the kids being in a mental institution as opposed to just another set of kids with Freddy coming after them. Yeah, I really like that they, like you said, it feels similar, but they do their own thing and they make it unique.
Yeah, because I think having the setting mostly at this like mental institution and like the different just a little bit more of like colors and different things when it comes to like some of the sequences with them going after Freddy. Like,
Yeah.
I think it just gives it a different feel like to it when you're watching it than in the first movie, sort of thing. So yeah, maybe a little bit more gothic in some ways.
Really love the opening scene. Yeah, the opening dream sequence rather. So of course you've got Kristen trying to stay awake, blasting the Draken on her tape deck, and her mother coming home with a gentleman caller. And but no, I love Kristen's dream sequence. You know, the spooky old house, which turns out to be Nancy's house. The 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Such a great little rhyme. And yeah, her going into the house and the creepy little girl being all like, "Home." It's like, oh no. And then, you know, all the hanging bodies of the children that he's killed. It's a great opening sequence. I think it's really strong, and I think it really reestablishes that Freddy's back, you know, and he's the Freddy that we remember from the first movie.
Yeah, I think it sets the stage for the movie really well, and I think Patricia Clarkson is a pretty Arquette. I keep saying Clarkson. Arquette. Sorry, two totally different. No, I keep saying Clarkson. Yeah, Arquette, a very young Patricia Arquette, who I think is, considering she's very young here, I think does a pretty solid job in the lead role. Yeah, and she's a likable character, because at first some of the other characters aren't that likable. They come off.
You have to ease into some of them, yeah.
Yeah, you do. But that's what I like partly about Kilcade, is that he does change over the course of the movie, and like,
it's so awesome.
And you're really with him when he like, let's go and kick this motherfucker's ass, you know.
Like, come on, Freddy, you pussy! I'm just like, go!
He's calling him out, and that's the fun about the movie, flipping that around from the first one. Whereas in the first one, I guess Nancy and her friends were more on defense in some ways, and in some ways that way it becomes more about Freddy, where I think this way it becomes more about like the human characters, but
taking their own power and using that to bring him down. Yeah, it's really great. I wanted to ask you, what do you think of the whole nun subplot and the whole Freddy's like background, and how we get a little bit of insight into that, and how that leads then into the whole burning of the bones? Do you think that works, or do you like that angle?
I don't know. I think that might have been a weaker part of the movie a little bit. I couldn't always see where it was going. Keen on that stuff, probably.
It's a bit of an odd thread. And I have to say that, like, even though I do like that Nancy's dad gets his redemption, I don't love the scenes at the car junkyard. I think they're a little distracting, and that is one of my tiny little nitpicks. Is that I do think, and then, you know, like, okay, so we find out that Freddy is the son of 1,000 rapes, which is such a great backstory, and that, you know, he has to be buried, he needs to get his bones and bury them on hallowed ground. All of that I'm okay with, but that bit at the end where like the skeleton comes to life and is like fighting them and stuff, that, I don't know, to me that was a little cheesy. Yeah. I think it would have worked better if we just cut between the kids fighting Freddy in their dreams and them trying to like burn the bones, because it was a bad CGI skeleton. It was something we've never really seen before. It seemed a little bit random. Like, is Freddy controlling his skeleton from the dream universe? How is this working? So that for me is just a tiny little nitpick. I don't mind the creepy nun, and I don't mind the Freddy backstory, because they didn't go so over the top into it that they like spelled everything out for us. But I do think the boneyard sequence is a little bit odd.
Okay, no, I like that stuff. Like, I don't think it's that out of and I do think in this sort of franchise you can have fun with like scenes like that, and
that's fair enough. But
I do also like the stakes of it. I like as I said, I like the therapist working together with the dad.
I do like that, yes, and I love when the therapist like introduces himself and he's like, all right, cool, now that we've been introduced, and then he just grabs the sheriff and like throws him up against the wall, and it's all like, now we've got to go to things. I'm like, yeah, therapist, yeah, go on, get your badass on.
Yeah, he definitely takes control, and I do like this idea of they've got to go to like where Freddy's body is like buried or held up, and they have to try and kill him that way. Because I do like the back and forth, and I like the way those scenes are linked with what's going on in the dream, because I almost like how Freddy pauses the stuff he's doing with the kids at some point when he realizes like someone's messing with his body. That's
okay. I didn't catch. I'll have to look for that next time.
Well, sort of, because I think he, like, whatever he does, like, he definitely pauses, and then I think the idea is that he goes to the other place.
He can sense it. Okay. Yeah.
Something like that. So I think the two things working side by side actually works pretty well. And yeah, I just enjoyed the stuff with the skeleton. I think there's a sort of a macabre sort of fun to that stuff, I think. But like, yeah, no, so I guess I'm the opposite, because the religious stuff I didn't like so much.
Okay, all right. So it looks like our nitpicks are in the same area. They're just in the slightly opposite parts of the area, but they're linked to the same thing, which is the backstory of Freddy and all of that.
Yeah, because I guess as we've gone on a little bit, like, there have been retcons in these sequels a bit, and I think they might continue. And like you said, it doesn't take too much time up. I just think maybe the nun herself took up a bit too much time, and like, there didn't really seem enough to justify her being in the movie as much as she was, in a way.
Be a ghost, possibly.
Pretty much, because I assumed after a while it was probably in his head. But like, the end scene is just, she pretty much leads him to the graveyard, doesn't it?
It's her grave,
the grave of, and she's meant to be like Freddy's mother.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and then you just get that little tease. Because it's so funny in a way that it ends with him, considering in a way he's not like one of the main characters. I mean, he's one of, but he's not.
I think it's fitting. Character. Yeah, I think it works. But you know, I really quite liked how his character grew over the movie.
Yeah, because I think for a while I was wondering, like, do you actually need his character? Like, like, if you took his character out of the movie, would you really lose that much? But he definitely turned out to be a good character.
Yeah. I
mean, I guess, like, maybe Nancy needs someone who's a bit supportive with her, like, at the mental institute, to try and facilitate some of her ideas, and then to try and back her up when, like, no one's buying her, like that nurse isn't believing her.
And also, even though Nancy is now a psychologist, it's implied that she's only just graduated, so I guess they would need someone a little bit older and a bit more experienced to work with her if she's only just, you know, come out of college and is going straight into the field. So I think his character was necessary, and I think he's used pretty well in the series. And like I said, I think that the fact that they wrote him to show that he really does care about the kids, like he genuinely wants to help them, you know, that came across a lot for me, and so that made me like him a lot more. He wasn't just there to like shove a bunch of pills at them and then shove them into a corner and forget about them. He genuinely wanted to help them and help them get past their problems and live full lives. So I thought that his character was pretty solid. I actually quite liked most of the characters in this. I think the only one I didn't really love was that nurse, but she was obviously supposed to be an antagonist. Like, you need to have the character who is going to be the voice that says, no, you can't do this. But I thought the other characters are pretty good, because I thought that a lot of the characters that worked in the institution were quite respectful. Like, even Lawrence Fishburne's character, you know, even though he says, you know, these kids are dangerous, he still treats them with respect. He still treats them kindly. I thought that
he was okay. Like, he was reasonable. You did have the one who was perving on the girl, so he wasn't so great.
Crap, I forgot about him.
It's a shame he didn't get killed off. I think
my sister and I said that when he was hitting on Tara. And he's being all skeezy. Jess and I were like, is he going to die? Please tell us he dies. And then he doesn't. That sucked.
that was a shame. Yeah, they should have killed him off, really. But yeah, his character as well. But like, you always get one or two like that. And
speaking of kills, this movie has some really fun kills. It's got one of your favorites favorite horror movie kills with the TV.
Welcome to primetime, bitch.
Isn't that fantastic? Such a great scene.
It's great, and it's so clever because it sets up that character wants to go to Hollywood and wants to be in like TV or films. So the fact that Freddie uses that against her, and it's a TV set, and it's such a memorable. And I know a couple of effects are a bit off, but like effects
pretty
generally are pretty
good.
good. Good practical 80s effects once again.
Yeah.
The head through the TV is good. I really
marionette scene. Oh yeah, sorry, no, you're gonna say.
Yeah, well, I really like the death of, I forget the guy, but it's the one where they make it look like suicide, where Freddy's got him on like strings.
That's the marionette one.
Really unnerving.
That is a fantastic. Joey.
That's
it. Joey?
And
yes,
I think so, and it just builds and builds, and you got, because he's doing the thing with the other guy where it's like almost like sort of stay awake type thing. And
what I really love about that marionette death, not only the special effects with like the vein, so there are certain images and certain things in like movies that really, really get to me, and stuff with veins and wrists always makes me go, Buh. So watching that scene, I was like literally just like, but it's so effective, and that's why I think it's such a great scene. And what I really love is you see the switches between him just sleepwalking, and they've established that this character sleepwalks, so no one thinks it's very odd to see him walking around at first until the kids start to clue in. And then, I also really love that shot of the massive Freddy holding the marionette strings as he's in the window. Like, that is a fantastic shot. So just another really, really fun death, and really fun. Now, speaking of death, I'm going to get into a big spoiler here, so people, if you haven't watched, pause yet, but I want to ask you what you think of the most controversial death in this movie. What do you think of Nancy's death and the way she dies? Do you like it, or do you think she was a dumbass for not realizing that she was being played?
Well, I think both, maybe. I think I can see how in hindsight she does come off as like a little bit naive, but I still like the death, because I still like she, in a way, she sacrifices herself. She kind of goes out on a high. But it's very easy. I mean, Freddy is very good at this stuff, and it gets to the point where, like, when you've been going back and forth and fighting him, and you're fatigued, and it's her father, and that makes it a bit more believable, because she obviously knows than maybe he would have died, because he got involved, and so it's a bit easier to be sucked in when it's a member of your family and you've got that emotional thing, and it obviously works thematically, because it's kind of like, and that's what makes it so gutting, in the fact that it is Freddy like tricking her, but like it's that thing of like, she wanted a send-off with her father, like she wanted, in a way, and kind of this final moment with him, and that's what makes it so cool what Freddy does in the end. But she's still fighting even after that, and it's a good, like, you can say she's a little bit naive, but I guess I excuse it a little bit because of it being her father. And
my thought too. Like, I know there are some fans that get really put out by this little twist, but the way I see it is, in that sequence, they think that they've defeated Freddy. Like, they've just had a big showdown with him, really big showdown. Like, it's not like it's been an easy showdown either. They've gone down into the boiler room to save the kid that's, hanging there by a thread. They've almost been sucked into hell themselves. So they think it's over. And for me, like, really seeing Nancy's relationship with her father in this movie and how estranged they've become, I can forgive her for thinking, oh my God, my dad is here and he wants to reconcile. And like, I think that in that moment, it wasn't her being dumb. It was her being hopeful, and her being like, oh my God, my dad is here and I haven't spoken to him in so long, and we can actually reconcile. Maybe so much that she just forgot in the moment who she was dealing with. And like you said, yes, Freddy stabs her. I almost said stabby. I almost said stabby Fred's her. Freddy stabs her, but like you said, she keeps fighting. She does that final blow, and then she dies in Kristen's arms, and it's a really beautiful and bittersweet death. And I actually like that they killed Nancy off, because I think that ups the stakes and
Yeah.
also kind of passes the torch. You know, she came back to protect the last of the Elm Street kids, and she dies doing that. So I think it's actually quite a fitting death. And
I
like I said, I
agree.
can understand why some fans might think that she's a little bit dumb, but I think, like you said, thematically it works. And I think that in that moment, and given what her relationship was like with her dad, I think it makes sense. So I actually wasn't really annoyed by her death this time around, because I have been in the past, but I actually thought this time when I watched it, I thought it was done pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where I can see why people are annoyed, but it's not actually the choice of her dying. Like you said, the choice of her dying and the reasons are fitting, and yeah, but like we say, because it is the dad, and I think at that point they are convinced that Freddy's dead, so it's not, it is quite easy to get sucked in by the emotion of the moment. So
Mm.
I think it actually works, and she goes out in a heroic way, and like you said, she does help to save them, and again applauding the movie really, because her dad also dies, and we lose a couple of the kids along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So like, there's definitely a lot of stakes, and like we've been saying, they do get pretty invented with some of the death and some of the set pieces, and change it up.
Death is nasty too. The marks opening up on her arms. Remember, and then Freddy shoves
Tara,
the needles into her
yeah.
arms. Oh, that's nasty. Oh, poor girl. Yeah, that was
Yeah, again, I do like the design of that scene. I like
yes,
her
yes.
punk rock sort of look, and I
Mm.
do like, yeah, her having like a almost like a fight with Freddy, like using her knife and his knives on, and yeah, it's a brutal end to that scene. Probably, I'm trying to think, is his name Will? Like maybe his scene was a bit too cheesy, because the scene where he
Yeah, the
appears.
wizard guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a little cheesy. That was probably one of the less effective scenes. I think.
Yeah, that wasn't so good. Like, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't so good. Like, maybe him appearing as a wizard was a bit too much, and overall it wasn't as satisfying as some of the other deaths. So, but yeah, they definitely get creative with the deaths, which this franchise can obviously do. And like we said, Freddy back to his best in this one. Some great catchphrases, some great like kills and horror moments, and yeah, really compelling story. Some high stakes as well, and of course a kick-ass soundtrack. So a kick-ass 80s soundtrack. What more could you want, really? So yeah, it's gone down as one of the best sequels and a fan favorite, like probably one of the best horror sequels, full stop. And I think it definitely deserves that reputation. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, that's Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, as we continue our look at the Nightmare franchise. So, Rachel, what are you going to rate this one?
I'm going to go with 8.5 out of 10. This is a really, really solid sequel. Loses a little bit just because a couple of little nitpicks, and I, I personally don't think it's as good as the first one. I really love the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think it's such a great slasher. But I mean, I can understand why people do kind of put this up there with it, because it really recaptures, the feel of the original. Like we said, there's so many great sequences, so many great kills. They have a lot of fun with Freddy. Really, really solid characters, really likable characters that you can get behind and really root for. And yeah, Nancy coming back and, working with these kids and then going out saving them
That's a
is
great
fantastic.
twist,
So
yeah.
0.5 out of 10 for me. Really, really great sequel. What about you?
I'll go 8.5 as well. I was tempted to go as high as 9, but probably, like we said, one or two of the issues drags it down a bit. And like I said, I do go back and forth, but I probably this time around, maybe I agree with you, then the original is still that little bit better. But this is a really impressive sequel, and I think you can probably enjoy it in ways that maybe you wouldn't enjoy the original. So it's really strong stuff. It's always a fun one to rewatch. So yeah, 8.5 is about right. And for a third part of a franchise, that's a really
Yes.
good score to give it. And Yeah, we'll see how we go with this franchise from now on, but this was definitely a blast to rewatch and review. So that's Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. Sing it along
We're
at
the
home.
Dream Warriors.
Yeah, I've rewatched that music video a lot because there's actually
Nice.
a music video on YouTube which they did for
It's on my special features on my Blu-ray.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it is on mine as well. But that's really cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, that's the third part of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Let us know what you think of this in the comments below. Now, what I can tell you is that the fourth part is the one that's directed by Rennie Harlan, who's
Yeah.
quite an early Rennie Harlan movie, known better for like action type movies. And of course, Deep Blue Sea, that we had a blast with recently.
Oh, we loved Deep Blue Sea, didn't we?
Yeah. So I can
Cool J to the rescue.
Yeah. So the Dream Master, that's part 4. So we'll review that soon on the channel. But let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. If you want to support the channel monetarily, then go to patreon.com/boardnow. You get a bunch of perks, including early access to reviews, unpopular opinion videos, TV, movie commentaries, some extra stuff over this period. So yeah, Board Now. Patreon.com/boardnow, just $1 a month. Also give me a super chat in the comment if you're liking this video and want to support the channel also. And we'll be back with more horror movie reviews throughout the month of October and some special live streams along the way as well. But Rachel, if you want to promote your channel.
Guys, you can follow me, Rachel McDonald, video essays exploring TV shows and media. Movies mostly from the early 2000s and late 90s. I do have a few horror pieces on there. Also have my Tumblr and my Instagram linked through there, so come and follow me everywhere.
Thanks, guys. And there's only one way to end, which is welcome to prime time, bitch. Bitches, in a way. See you later, guys. Take care. See ya. Bye.
Kill you. He wears a dirty brown hat. He's horribly burned. He has razors on his right hand. Man of my dreams. He's real, isn't he? He's real. Let go of him, you bastard.